Hey Lag Nation, welcome back to the Lag channel, bringing you another Lag video. We hope you guys enjoyed. Let's get right into it.
Hey guys, this is Matarbuckle. Welcome back. We're going to be talking about the campaign in this video. This is the second video in a 4-part video series for our wish list for Halo Infinite. If you haven't seen the first video, hit the card so you can be redirected to the first video. Enjoy!
Now we can move on to the campaign section of this video. Let's start with architecture, specifically humans. Any opinions?
Yes, the human architecture of this, I've noticed that in Halo 5 and in Halo 4, certain aspects of human architecture just look really dumb. I don't know how else to explain it. Like, they're just really boring, and it just doesn't look like human architecture. It just looks like something that was simply drawn and put together. There wasn't really much focus into, yeah, this looks human, this looks like something that would actually be there. But I think a game that did it really well was actually Halo Reach. So in Reach, a lot of the stuff was like grungy and dirty looking, but you could tell it was still futuristic. It wasn't like old. Like in Halo 3, they had really old era stuff, and it looked fine for Halo 3, but it didn't give off that we're 500 years in the future human vibe to it. A few examples of this might be in Reach when you're in New Alexandria in the Falcon mission. Looking around the city, you can tell it does look human, but it also definitely looks futuristic. Like, those skyscrapers are so much taller than anything we have today. That's insane. And just the way everything's built, it actually looks like it has purpose. Another area where the human architecture looks really good is the Saber base that you go to in Halo Reach. That base looked really cool. There's a lot of realistic aspects to it, and just like the tech, I guess, and the launch room, or whatever you want to call it, the like headquarter room that you go into, it looks really cool.
Another one that you can see a lot of these aspects is in Halo 2 and Halo 3 ODST with the examples of New Mombasa. So in Halo Reach, New Alexandria looked a lot newer. Of course, battle damaged by the Covenant. New Mombasa, I gotta be honest, I was very impressed. First one I played Halo 2 back when they came out, and also ODST when they came out. Exploring the city, unbelievable. Seeing how everything might have actually looked, and in every sense, it looks like it's possible. Unlike, for example, in Halo 4, where you see some of these bases in the multiplayer maps, or in campaign, and it's not believable. You know what I mean?
They're just all white, and there's not really any detail to them. They're just super boring, and you walk in, and then all of a sudden you're in this room that you're like, this doesn't make sense to be right here. I feel like there needs to be more. It's like if they made a building a convertible. There's like not doors on it. It's just all open. There's not really any. It's weird.
That's one way to put it. Weird.
And I think the last example that I have for this is from Halo 4, and you didn't actually go there at all. It's in a cutscene. The very end of Halo 4, when it shows the UNSC landing back in New Harmony after the Didact composed everybody there. New Harmony looked really cool. I don't know if you guys remembered it, but there was like the highways or like the main roads, and they were dipped down, and then there was these big like building structures that were also like kind of blockades on the side, and then on top of those stood the building. It just looked really like neat, futuristic, but at the same time definitely human.
That's the important part. Definitely human, and definitely plausible. That's another aspect.
Yeah. So I guess that's it for human architecture, but what we're going to talk about next is Forerunner architecture.
So for that one, we can start with how it's done right. As many of you remember, when you first played Halo 1 or Halo 2, is how creepy of an aspect we got from these ruins. They look like they've been a long time. Sure, they were maintained, but after that long, even some of that stuff can't look new. For example, Halo 2 Anniversary did a pretty good job, for the most part, making this feel real. There are some, for example, in the last mission, that there are some of these pillars that look a little bit too white. They look grimy, sure, but the lighting might have been wrong. In any case, it's not like in Halo 4 or Halo 5 where you have this completely new aspect to Forerunner architecture. For example, some people point out that there's too many floating parts that are unnecessary, and it can't be done right. Just think about Halo 4 in the second mission when you land on Requiem and you're coming through this cave and it opens up to these humongous floating pillars. Now that was a moment that's just breathtaking. The combination of the music and that architecture, great. And that's a great example of how it's done correctly.
Yeah, and that's actually a really good example of how they brought something new to the Forerunners and they still did it right. Because I know when they first, brought in Halo 4, they did a lot of things wrong art style, like a lot of things. But I think this was something, there's certain aspects of it that were definitely bad. There's a lot of floaty bits and extra things that don't need to be part of the Forerunner architecture that the original games didn't have. Take like the pylon, the regular pylons that shoot the beam up into the sky. You don't know what I'm talking about. On the map Valhalla, each base is a pylon, and it's I think the second mission in Halo CE. You go to one of those pylons right before you get in the Warthog. Those have a really good architecture, and then in Halo 4, they're not terrible, but they're definitely not as good as the original, in my opinion.
In Halo 5, we encounter a lot of Forerunner architecture, but it's even more different than what they brought with Halo 4. In Halo 4, you usually see shiny silvers, light blue lights. In Halo 5, they brought it to being almost white. It no longer looks metallic. It has this texture that makes it look like it's this advanced metal, but still it doesn't look real, doesn't look tangible.
Yeah, there's definitely a aluminum feel to everything. Like a lot of the structures, and going back to the humans a little bit, certain cylinders just look like a really big Coke can or a Mountain Dew can, just with no design on it, just like no paint or anything. This looks like an aluminum can that could easily be dented or broke. And Forerunner structures definitely have that feel to them too in certain places.
And there's also the aspect that I'll bring up again, the floating parts in Forerunner architecture that have almost never been seen in games before Halo Reach. Actually, not even in Halo Reach itself. It's usually very grounded. Sure, there's some aspects where they defy gravity, but there's an excess of it. You understand what I mean? And there's also the blinding lights that they used for Halo 5. Everything has a glitter like a J.J. Abrams movie.
And they actually did this in both of the anniversaries. Not so badly in Halo 2 Anniversary, but definitely Halo Combat Evolved Anniversary. You'll turn to the new graphics, and like the entire room will be lit up, whereas in the old graphic, it's just completely dark. Like, I get that you want to add lights, that's fine, like the cool decorative lights, but they definitely shouldn't be lighting up the whole room. They should be way more dim. And I think a lot of that might be an issue of the lighting in the game, just the way it works with the engine, and hopefully that's something that'll be fixed in Halo Infinite.
Now, let us move on to character art styles. For example, Marines should look like they're in the army of Halo Reach, or in Halo 2 Anniversary, in my opinion. I know you disagree a little bit with that one, but they look that one and Halo Wars 1 and Halo Wars 2. I believe for Halo 2 Anniversary, they use a very similar armor style.
I don't have anything against the armor itself in Halo 2. I think my biggest thing that I like about the Reach Marines, or I guess Army, if is what they really are, is their outfits and clothes actually make them look a little bit more bulkier and realistic, whereas all of the Halo 2 and 3 Marines all look like they're anorexic.
In the case of Halo 3, I believe it's because the armor pieces tend to be a bit bulkier, but the fatigues below them are almost skin tight, and that's why they feel a little bit too thin.
I really love the BDU of the Reach Army. They look so good. And if we were to take those outfits and then maybe mix it with the armor from Halo 2 and some of Halo 3's armors, made it fit on them well and everything, I think it would look really good. I definitely like the green from Halo 3 Marines. That style, that shading of green just looks really nice. And that's actually pretty much what we got in the Slip Space Engine demo trailer. I don't know if you guys remember, but the Marines that are walking together, they're green, but they look very similar to the Halo Reach ones.
I was honestly very impressed about how they look like, and I agree that's probably the best style they can give them. Really impressed with that demo. Of course, always remember it is a demo, and things are subject to change.
Yeah.
But anyhow, I think with the positive outlook the community had on that one and the trailer they did the year after in E3, I think they're going to go with a very nice direction when it comes to at least that aspect.
Okay, so for the next section, we're actually going to move through it fairly quickly. It's all of the alien species, kind of what we want them to look like. So for the elites, we talked about it, and we kind of like the design of the Halo 2 Anniversary elites and the Halo 3 elites. And I know the Halo 2 Anniversary one is a little weird. A lot of people don't like the way the armor looks. Personally,
Not
I
only
like
that,
it.
but also the elites themselves. Some people
Yeah.
disagree. They shouldn't have looked so reptilian, I guess you could
Yeah.
call it.
I
But
definitely like the
nonetheless,
way the Elite look in the Halo 2 Anniversary cutscene. Like the way the Arbiter looks, really good. I love that. But the thing is, and we know they did it for gameplay style because you can be Elites in that game. They want them to scale them down to the size of Spartans. But the size of the Elites in the Halo 5, a little bit too big in my opinion. I know they're supposed to be 8 feet tall, but I think a lot of times they look around 9 feet tall. If they were to scale that down just a little bit, but make them visibly bigger than Spartans, I think they would be perfect for in-game.
of course. Now let's move on to the brutes.
Definitely want the way the brutes to look like is how they looked in the Halo Wars 2 cutscene. Those guys looked amazing. They were so detailed. Their armor was cool. The ones that aren't bald don't look really weird. They have these awesome braided beards, and it looks really nice. And from what we've been seeing recently, we're probably going to see the Banished in Halo Infinite. They're most likely going to be on the planet Reach in Shadows of Reach, the book that's coming out, and I really hope to see them in Halo Infinite. Jackals. So I would actually like to see all the types of Jackals we've seen come back. I like the Halo Reach and the Halo 3 Jackals. So Halo 3 Jackals, they had the sniper ones, and then they had the ones holding the shields. I like both of those. And then in Halo Reach, they had the skirmishers, where they had little tiny shields on each arms, and they'd run around. I think that was really cool. And if we were to see both of those in the game, both kinds of Jackals, I think that'd be really interesting. The Grunt.
That's correct, the grunts. I really loved how they looked in Halo 3. I didn't like Halo 4, not necessarily 5, but I did love the way they portrayed grunts in Halo 5 again. They went back to that charm that they had in the previous games that had been lost since Halo Reach, when they went back to alien speech instead of us understanding them in English.
Yeah, I really like how the grunts in Halo 3, how the tanks on their back and their little methane masks look. I love that the most. I would say I like the way their skin looks in Halo 5 the best. I don't know if some people really like the Halo 4 skin. Not the actual grunt themselves in Halo 4, but the skin is like a crustacean look to it. And I'm personally not a fan, but I know a lot of people like that.
And in the aspect of how they act, it's brought back a certain lightheartedness that Halo had lost, I dare say.
Yeah. Moving on to the Hunters. Honestly, the Hunters haven't changed too much other than from Halo 1. Changed a little bit. I personally like the Halo 5 Hunters. I think they did them the best. They showed that they were actually made up of a colony of worms coming together, and you could actually tell that looking at them. And I can't wait to see how they look in the new game with this new engine.
Honestly, I can't either. You're right, they look really good in Halo 5, especially those moments that you actually got to see them, like the colony, come together to bring the Hunter back to life.
Yeah.
It was really great.
Drones next, or the Yanmei. I like the Halo Reach version of it.
I think that might have been the best one.
Yeah. Halo 3's wasn't bad either, but definitely did not like Halo 2's. Both new and old graphics. They just looked really... like they didn't take the time to texture them out. They didn't put too much thought into them, because they didn't appear as much in the game as the other enemies.
I agree with that observation, yeah.
Definitely want the engineers or the Huragox back. Those are cool. I like the Reach version of them. Which version do you like?
I think the Reach version is really nice. They did forget to put the 2 tentacles that they have on the upper part, the pink ones, for Halo Reach.
That's what it is.
That seems more like it's an oversight.
If we're being honest, I really like the Halo ODST's version of the Huragox, actually the best. Just because he is such a big part of the game, they worked so hard on making him look good. Alright, so we're going to talk about Prometheans. And honestly, I have a big issue with the way the Prometheans look. I don't necessarily mind them being in the game. I think it's an interesting new idea for a new enemy. I know a lot of people don't like them. I just think that they need to be more connected. Not like we talked about with architecture. There's too many floaty bits. They are connected, all one machine. I think they would look a lot better.
I'm gonna have to agree with that one. I don't mind them as an enemy. In fact, I really like them a lot. I think they bring, like you said, a really nice change of pace, a new faction, and for the most part, they're done correctly. but I would like to see a change into, for example, some of the concept arts that you can see,
Yeah.
where they are a lot more
Robotic
they're
looking
differently
rather
built.
than.
Yes.
I wonder if making them a darker shade of gray would make them look better. Think of like a darker shade of gray and then like a really deep red. Give them like a more ominous, dark feeling. I think that would make them a lot cooler too. And then Sentinels. Sentinels aren't even like in Halo 5. They need to bring Sentinels back as an enemy. But I understand that Sentinels sort of go with one of the bigger topics, Flood. And there wasn't any Flood in Halo 4 or 5. There were a few Sentinels in Halo 4, but they didn't look like they used to.
Not at all. Their style had changed quite a bit. And in that game, you can't even destroy them if they take too much damage. They slip space away.
Yeah.
And you could notice that they were no longer held together, just like the rest of the architecture. Some of the Prometheans, they were held together by force field or gravity. And for Halo 5, we could only see the Constructor Sentinels, the smaller kind, and you can notice the same difference in that one. We're no longer held together. The
thing
just
about
floated.
those, though, is I'm not too worried about the little guys have like maybe one or two floaty bits. Because they're so small. They're already like a floaty bit themselves, you know? Maybe that means that they should just be all together. I don't know. But they're such a non-important part of the game that I feel like it doesn't matter as much what they look like.
I can see your point. Makes sense.
Next, Flood. Honestly, I would love to see Halo Wars 2 Flood. Like from the cutscene. They can make them look that gross and have that many different kinds of Flood in the game. That would be so fun to fight first person, and it would be honestly terrifying.
They were definitely terrifying in that game. I can't wait to see how it's done in this next game.
I would say Halo 1 actually did the Flood the best. It was very creepy. They were like way more creepy, and instead of just, oh, the Flood again. And I kind of want to get back to that. And I know a big part of that is the first time we ever saw the Flood. That has a big impact on it. But I just definitely think that Halo 1 with like the little eerie soundtrack noises and stuff that they have in the game really set the scene for the Flood. Halo 2 did that pretty well as well. So the next thing we want to talk about in the campaign is the world. One of the biggest things we want to see, and mainly because they've teased at it so many times, is an open world game. And I feel like we've come up with a pretty good way of how they could do this and manage it well.
And that brings us back to a place we had mentioned earlier, the beautifully crafted New Mombasa.
Definitely. The open worldness of ODST, thinking you have this gigantic map, which was New Mombasa, to free roam. And then once you started your missions, they wouldn't actually take place in the free roam map. They'd be, your separate normal Halo linear mission. And I feel like this is something they could definitely do in Halo Infinite if they were to have multiple, not just one free roam map, but different ones. So like say there's one or two different ones on the Halo ring. And there's like another one maybe on Genesis if they go back to Genesis. Or maybe there's a free roam map on Halo Reach because we don't know where this book that's coming out is going to take us, and it could take us in that direction. Who knows? And a way they could do that is, say the free roam map is on the ring, and you have to go to a Forerunner facility on the ring to do whatever you have to do. Maybe find a weapons cache or something, and you go there, and once you enter it, it triggers the mission, and you're no longer in the free map. Another thing we wanted to see in this game is hub missions that Halo 5 had, but expanded upon. And one way to do that would be to put those hub areas in the free roam maps. So like say at that hub area there's a landing pad and you have to go to the Pelican to start your mission because you have to fly somewhere else on the ring. That would be really cool.
Mm-hmm. And from those expanded areas, we also have more Easter eggs, more areas to explore inside the map, and by getting out of the map, for example, we can put Halo 2 here, or in New Mombasa, you can just get out of the map in so many different places.
Definitely. And that was always fun to explore the outside of the maps. They didn't have as many boundaries back then on the games as they do in Halo 4 and 5. I know in Halo 3 you can get out as well, but Halo 2 was definitely one where you could just get outside of the map all the time and just walk forever. It was really cool to explore the backdrops and the skyboxes and all the different things that they had in the game at the time. Obviously, and he mentioned Easter eggs. So I know there's a few Easter eggs in Halo 3 where there's like a hologram of a guy standing in his underwear in one of those last missions of Halo 3. I believe it was the beginning of the last mission.
At the beginning of the last mission, yeah. The same
Yeah.
place you find the terminal. There's a chasm that you have to go over, and there you can find a picture of one of the developers.
There's also the monkey family or whatever in like up against the rock on a ledge or something
Halo
in one of
3.
the beginning missions, of Halo 3.
Mm-hmm.
So those are like Easter eggs that they could definitely put in the game. And let's not forget about skulls and data pads that you might be able to find around the map or certain things like that. And actually, data pads, that brings me to the Artemis tracking system that we would love to see in the game, but definitely expanded upon. So in Halo 5, they had the Artemis tracking system, and it was actually for scanning data pads, right? And like the collectibles and the missions.
You could use it for
for
data
Easter eggs?
pads and some, also for some mission objectives. It was rare that you'd end up using it, to be honest.
It'd be cool if they put that back in the game and allowed you to almost scan virtually anything in the game. So say there was a weapon on the ground, you scan it with your thing, you get the information saying, oh, this is a battle rifle. It was made in the Mesraya armory. You could do it with vehicles, you could do it with weapons, you could do it with plants on different planets, you could do it on some of the wildlife that's definitely going to be in the game after all those trailers we've seen. And certain things like that. And it would be a way to, you could go back out into the menu and you could look through all the things you've collected data on, and you could actually like look at the lore and read about them. I know in Halo Wars 2, are they Phoenix logs? Is that what they're called, Rob?
Phoenix logs, yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, you find those, and then you'd go back in the menu, and it would tell you like little Halo lore pieces. So basically, you could do that, but with the Artemis tracking system. I think that would be a really intuitive way to learn some lore for those people out there that want more lore.
Definitely. More lore is always good.
So the next thing that we would love to see is, since these maps are definitely going to be so big and everything, and if they do add that free roam in, where you can just kind of go around and explore on your own, a sneakiness element. I don't know what you'd call that, some stealth element into the game
Stealth.
like ODST had.
Yeah, stealth.
In that stealth element, you could see enemy over there that just landed in a phantom. And you're like, okay, well, I don't want to fight those guys because I don't have a lot of ammo and I'm by myself and I'm on legendary. Let me go around them. And you could choose to sneak around them and not have to fight them and be able to move on to your objective. Speaking of objectives, I know in Halo 1, that second mission where you crash land on the ring, you're able to go and gather up Marines in whatever order you want. You can go to whichever area you want in whatever order. It'd be so great to see something like that in Halo again, where the missions are still linear, but you're able to choose and pick which objectives to do first, as long as you end up at your end goal objective.
I know what you mean. I completely agree with that one.
So, sort of on that same topic of stealth that we want to see in the game, and it worked really well because it was a nighttime game. In ODST, they had that enhanced vision, and you could switch your visor over to this sort of nighttime mode. It would brighten everything on your screen, highlight your enemies in red and your teammates in green, and I think it worked a lot better than the night vision that the older Halos had.
Including Halo Reach. Yeah, like you mentioned, visor mode was really helpful, especially during those nighttime segments. It really also brought out the art style used in the game, even though that sort of thing in other games would really mess with what the developers were trying to do when it came to geometry of the levels and art style.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, the outlining definitely could change gameplay up a ton, but somehow it really worked in ODS.
Of course, and you could also see how well New Mombasa was crafted. Everything was highlighted. You could, even in the pitch darkness, you could see those little details that the developers wanted you to see.
We definitely want to see a longer campaign. I know Halo 2 had a pretty extensive campaign, and that was much appreciated. I feel like some of the games feel a little too short. Halo 5 honestly felt really short to me, but that's also because it lacked some content that it should have had.
Yeah, there's definitely a few things that should have been there that were not.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
From there, we'll move on to the squad mechanics of campaign. One thing you might have noticed about Halo CE and Halo 2 and in Halo 4, the second players, or all your co-op players or whoever is playing campaign with you, they are also the Master Chief. And I feel like that takes away from the immersiveness of the game. You can't really, dive in and role play or whatever you want to do because there's another chief there. That's just not how it is. But in Halo 3, second player is the Arbiter. The last 2 players are 2 elites. That's cool. In Halo 5, you have all of Blue Team or Osiris Team. It'd be really cool to see something like that again. Oh, in Halo Reach, you get to play as your own Spartan, which is cool. And I wouldn't suggest playing as your own Spartan in Halo Infinite, since we're most likely going to be playing as Master Chief. It'd be cool to give him a team, but who knows. So I think the squad system definitely needs to be expanded upon. The way it works in Halo 5 is everyone's always together, and it feels like you're playing a single player game with other people. And that's kind of how all the Halo games felt. But it would be really cool to have some sort of mechanic where, we don't have Cortana anymore. She can't open doors for us. She can't access terminals or lifts or teleporters or any of that for us. It'd be really cool to have an AI that would get it done for you immediately. You wouldn't have to worry about them dying or anything if it was the AI. But if it was another player, they'd split off from you and go do this objective. Maybe they need to go to a room on the other side of the map and pull a switch so it unlocks a door. Or maybe you guys need to split up and pull switches at the same time to activate something. You could also even go the combat route and say this person needs to go up there and snipe because there's so many enemies coming at us. Yes, we can do it this way, but it would be so much easier if this person was Overwatch and they were protecting us and helping us get through the mission.
Yeah, that would definitely help make the game feel a lot more alive, a lot more dynamic, and with the advancements that are coming with next generation, I think that would actually be a possibility, not something so far-fetched.
Yeah. The last thing I'd say about the squad mechanics is that in Halo Reach, when you're walking around the missions and you find Marines, I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but down by your radar, they will actually pop up and you'll recruit these specific Marines to your little squad. It's like you're already a squad of Noble Team, but then you have your own little personal Marines with you. And it would be really cool to see something like that pop up in the game, and they could add that really simplistic leadership thing they had in Halo 5 where you click on an enemy and all the AIs will attack that enemy. It'd be cool if you could do that for the Marines within your squad. That would be a really interesting thing to put in the game. Moving on now, though, to kind of what we want to see and feel, I guess, for the campaign missions. We definitely want an emotional story, like in Halo 4. That was really emotional. A lot of people bag on Halo 4, but it was actually a really good story. But Halo 3, Halo 3 had a good story. It was definitely emotional when Johnson died. And that actually brings me to another point. It'd be really cool to see if they could bring in a character that was similar to Johnson. Not the same character, not the same jokes, but like someone that we care about in the game. I feel like Lasky could actually fill that role, but I also feel like the pilot from the trailer, I feel like he's going to fill that role in Halo Infinite, and I'm really excited to see where they go with that.
Actually, I don't mind him. I found him really nice, and if he's going to be the one, I totally agree with it. We also have Buck, which we've had in Halo DSD, and I believe it's been 2 books already, right? Where he's been in?
Yeah. At least
so
2
it
books.
would be nice if it was him as well. We had some story with him. There's a lot of people that care about him, and who doesn't love Nathan Fillion, if I'm going to be fully honest.
Yeah. So to expand upon the story a little bit, we mentioned it being emotional and sort of having a connection with some of the characters, but we also want some of those more simpler things in the campaign, like the one-liners from Master Chief. There's a lot in Halo 2 where he's like, I need a weapon, where he says, give the Covenant back their bomb, finishing this fight. Those sort of things are really nice. There's a few in Halo 3 as well. At the very beginning of the campaign, I believe he says something along the lines of he's not out of the fight yet because Johnson thinks he's dead. There's actually a few from the Arbiter in Halo 3.
Where it's so easy.
Also, something else we want to see is those callbacks from previous Halo games. I know in Halo 4 they did one where Cortana was flying the Lich towards Ivanov Station in Halo 4, and she's becoming rampant, so she's not paying attention as much, but Master Chief yells at her to pull up. And that was a callback to that Halo 1 scene where Master Chief is driving the Banshee into the Pillar of Autumn, and Cortana's yelling at him to pull up at the last second.
That's a good callback, but also tragic considering. Alright, with that being done, we can move on to what type of campaign missions you'd like to see in the next one. I'll begin with dogfights, be it in space, like in Halo Reach, or in the atmosphere, like in, for example, in the Covenant in Halo 3, or in Reach as well, in New Alexandria, where you're flying the Falcon. All great missions.
Definitely. Yeah, the one that pops out, and you mentioned it, the Saber in Halo Reach. I think that's the first time they've ever had like a space mission where you're fighting out in space in a spaceship. That was really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And it still kind of holds up to this day. It's very simple, but it's still really good. I'd like to see some more of that. I think the next one, we have to mention it, the Warthog run. We definitely need a Warthog.
We didn't have one in Reach. We didn't have one in 4.
Well,
I don't remember
there
one
was
in
the
Halo
Ghost
5 either.
run. There was the Ghost run in 4, and it was not my favorite.
I don't want Ghost. I want Warthogs.
Yes. The other kind of mission I want to see is a flying mission.
Mm-hmm.
Different from the dogfight. In Halo Reach, you flew the pellet, or not the pellet. You flew the Falcon around New Alexandria, which you could turn it into a pelican using an Easter egg, which was cool. And you had to go around and complete objectives at different buildings. And I think it would be really cool if they had another mission like that. There was also the mission, I think it was near the end of Tip of the Spear, right before you get to the Spire. You're in the Falcons and you're shooting at all the turrets and the wraiths on the ground. That was really cool as well, even though it was a really short moment. Something like that would be really fun to have in Halo Infinite. Like,
it'd be great if it was expanded upon.
Yeah, like if it was like a whole mission where you're just in the passenger seat of a Falcon or some sort of airship gunning down at people on the ground, that would be so fun. I think they could expand upon it. Definitely, like, maybe have a Pelican mission. You're in a Pelican and you have to pick up survivors and deliver them back to base. Or something along those lines, like helping an evac. Those missions in Halo Reach were pretty fun.
I really liked it. There's also the on rails part in Exodus, where you're also in a Falcon, and you're actually helping with evacuation before you reach the last area that has the missiles, then you can drive away the Corvette.
That's true, I had forgotten about that. I really like that part too. And I think the last type of mission that we want to see in the game are boss encounters. Ones that I can specifically think of are the boss battles in Halo 2 and 3. In Halo 2 being the boss fight with Tartarus at the very end, and at the end of Halo 3, the one with 343 Guilty Spark. One in Halo 2 seemed a little bit long, and I'm pretty sure you actually have to rely on Johnson to finish off Tartarus with a beam rifle shot. I don't necessarily like that part of it.
Actually, for that boss battle, Johnson does get rid of his invulnerability. He can take the final shot if you get lucky enough, but it's up to you to really bring it in.
I guess most of the times I played it, Johnson ended up killing him for us.
It's also good to mention in Halo 2, when you're in the Sentinel wall, the Enforcer Sentinel, when you first encounter it as the Arbiter, you don't have a vehicle or anything like that later on in the mission. So I think that's a really good boss encounter, since you really have to check how can you beat him, and considering that in the first cutscene of that level, you almost get killed by one before the Phantom distracts it. Other than that, we have Halo 3 with the Scarabs, and the one that always comes to mind is the first Scarab we meet after Salvo Highway. And, of course, in the Covenant, we have to kill those 2 Scarabs. That blew my 14-year-old mind when the game came out. It was amazing.
Yeah, that was a really cool moment to be able to fight 2 Scarabs at the same time. Not only that you're just fighting 2 of them, they don't crawl into the map the normal way, they literally fall from the sky. But the boss encounters in general were pretty fun in Halo. And I think the last point of campaign would be Spartan Ops and DLC campaign. Spartan Ops got a really bad rap in Halo 4, but it was actually pretty fun. My only complaint about it was just constantly visiting the same maps over and over and over again.
There are maps that we even visit 5-6 times for doing pretty much the same objectives.
Yeah, but I think it would be really cool if we could maybe follow Fireteam Osiris around, or Alpha 9, since they got back together. I know Buck's not on Osiris anymore, but maybe he could be replaced with Gabriel Thorne or something like that. I feel like following Osiris around and maybe getting to know them a little bit better would make people appreciate them a little bit more than they did in Halo 5.
Yeah, I think a lot of the problem with Halo 5 is not only how often they were in the missions, a lot more than Blue Team at least, but also that we had little connection to most of them. For Locke, we did have some terminals and that series, Nightfall. Buck, we had a little bit more than that with already, by that time we had one book plus ODST. But Vale and Tanaka were a little bit more on the unknown side. And I don't think that was that emotional connection that we have, for example, with the Master Chief.
Definitely.
I think that was also lacking.
The lines, whoever the voice actors, they had these lines that were not good. Tanaka had a really cringy speech, and that's honestly all I can remember about her. The whole game, just cringy speech. That's all I remember.
And it's such a shame because these voice actors and actresses put a lot of work into it, and sometimes the dialogue is not good, and it's not that the actress did a bad job, it's just that, well, the lines were just bad.
Yeah. And then the last point, DLC campaign. It'd be really cool to have some sort of downloadable content campaign that comes out later on, after the game's already out and everything. Just like what Halo Wars 2 did. They came out with the ODST missions, and they came out with the Banished missions that you fight the Flood on. And honestly, I know Halo gives out a lot of free content, like map packs and stuff, but I would be willing to pay for more campaign. And I definitely think it's a way that they could make money without it using all these terrible little microtransactions that they have.
That's something we should always avoid whenever possible.
Yeah, those microtransactions are pretty bad. But that's going to wrap it up for the campaign video. Don't forget to comment down below and let us know what you guys want for the campaign. Did we miss anything?
So that's going to do it for today. If you guys enjoy the video, make sure to smash that like button. And if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button as well. And make sure to click the notification bell to stay caught up with all our juicy lag videos. Catch you guys next time.